I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay, we're going to
continue our coverage this evening of the local state employee who was arrested and terminated from his position after several kilograms of suspected cocaine were seized.
4:47 a.m. Massachusetts State House, Boston. The hallways were empty. Security cameras recorded nothing unusual. Governor Maura Healey's administration building sat quiet in the pre-dawn darkness. But federal agents were already inside. FBI tactical units moved through corridors with suppressed footsteps. DEA task force members positioned themselves at key exits. U.S. Marshals secured the perimeter outside. No alarms, no warnings, just the cold inevitability of what was about to break open. At 4:52 a.m., a steel door marked Western Regional Director shattered inward. The sound echoed like a gunshot through marble halls built to honor public service. Agents flooded the office, wearing ballistic vests stamped with yellow letters. And there, behind a desk decorated with community service awards and photos with senators, sat Lamar Cook, Deputy Director of the Governor's Office for Western Massachusetts. A man who had spoken at town halls about transparency. A man who had shaken hands with police chiefs and school superintendents. A man now frozen as agents surrounded him. On the conference table beside him sat a black courier box. Sealed, locked, marked with shipping codes that meant nothing to civilians. But agents knew exactly what those codes meant. The box opened with a metallic click. Inside, 8.4 kilograms of pure cocaine. Individually wrapped bricks stamped with cartel insignias. A Glock 19 with filed serial numbers. And $38,500 in cash, still bound in bank wrappers. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't evidence left behind. This was inventory. If you want to see how deep this corruption runs, hit like, so this story reaches people who need to know. Lamar Cook didn't resist. He didn't speak. He simply stared at the floor as handcuffs closed around his wrists. Because he knew this moment had been coming. What Cook didn't know was how much federal agents had already discovered. How many months they had been watching. How many names were already on the list. The arrest at the State House was not the beginning of the investigation. It was the end. Let me show you what led them there. 14 months earlier, Hartford, Connecticut. A routine traffic stop on I-91 South ended with K-9 units alerting on a commercial delivery van. Inside the cargo area, hidden beneath restaurant supply boxes, officers found 23 kilograms of cocaine and 11 kilograms of fentanyl. The driver was a contracted courier. No criminal record. No gang affiliations. But his phone told a different story. Encrypted messages referenced drop points across New England. Shipping schedules that aligned perfectly with state government mail routes. And payment confirmations sent to numbered accounts in the Cayman Islands. One message caught investigators' attention immediately. MA West office confirmed. Package clears Friday. L handles personally. Massachusetts. West office. And someone with the initial L who handles personally. The DEA opened a file. 2 weeks later, another seizure. This time in Worcester. A warehouse registered as agricultural storage contained 89 kilograms of methamphetamine tablets pressed to look exactly like Adderall. Fake prescription medication. Deadly. Designed to kill college students and professionals who thought they were buying study aids. The warehouse lease was paid by a shell company, but the company's registered agent had one curious detail in his background. He was a former legislative aide in the Massachusetts State House. Common betrayal if you understand what this means. The connections were forming. Slowly, carefully, like a web becoming visible in morning light. Federal investigators formed a joint task force. FBI, DEA, ATF, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, and one analyst from the Department of Homeland Security who specialized in government corruption. They called it Operation Clean Shield. For 11 months, the task force operated in complete secrecy. No press releases, no political briefings, no leaks. They monitored financial transactions flowing through Massachusetts municipal accounts. They tracked shipping manifests for state-contracted logistics companies. They identified anomalies in procurement records where invoices didn't match deliveries. And they watched Lamar Cook. Cook's official salary was $127,000 per year. Comfortable, but not extravagant. Yet over 18 months, Cook had purchased a vacation property in Miami for $680,000 cash. He had made wire transfers totaling $1.2 million to offshore accounts. He had bought 3 luxury vehicles under different LLC names. None of it appeared on his financial disclosure forms. The deeper agents dug, the more they found. Cook wasn't just a customer. He wasn't just moving drugs for profit on the side. He was the logistics coordinator for an entire distribution network. Type yes if you're ready to see how this operation actually worked. The network operated with military precision. Cocaine shipments originated with the Sinaloa Cartel in Culiacan, Mexico. They moved north through cartel-controlled corridors in Texas and Arizona. Then they entered the legitimate supply chain. Trucks owned by a produce distribution company called New England Fresh Harvest carried the drugs hidden inside refrigerated containers. The company had contracts with Massachusetts state agencies to deliver food to prisons, hospitals, and government cafeterias. No one questioned the trucks. They had the right permits, the right insurance, the right paperwork, and Lamar Cook ensured they were never inspected. Cook's position gave him access to state logistics systems. He could approve delivery schedules. He could authorize after-hours access to state facilities. He could ensure certain trucks bypassed normal security protocols. In return, Cook received $50,000 per successful shipment. Over 14 months, 19 shipments moved through Massachusetts. Each shipment weighed between 12 and 27 kilograms. Total product moved 347 kilograms of cocaine, 89 kilograms of methamphetamine, 34 kilograms of fentanyl. Street value, $87.3 million. But Cook was not working alone. The task force identified 17 additional individuals connected to the network: police officers, municipal clerks, court administrators, even a Massachusetts state police detective. Each had a role. Each received payment. Each believed they were invisible. They were wrong. At 3:12 a.m. on the morning of Cook's arrest, federal agents executed simultaneous search warrants at 14 locations across Massachusetts: Springfield, Worcester, Lowell, New Bedford, Pittsfield. The raids were surgical. In Springfield, agents breached a 2-story auto repair shop that served as a distribution hub. Inside, they found 67 kilograms of cocaine hidden beneath hydraulic lifts. 3 men reached for weapons. Flashbang grenades exploded. The men dropped their guns and surrendered within seconds. No shots fired. Complete control. In Lowell, a residential home in a quiet neighborhood concealed a counting room. Agents found $2.7 million in cash stacked in plastic bins, money counters, vacuum sealers, and ledgers documenting every transaction. The homeowner was a city clerk who processed business licenses. In Worcester, a warehouse disguised as a construction supply company stored 143 kilograms of methamphetamine and 91 firearms, semi-automatic rifles, modified pistols, even 2 grenade launchers traced back to a National Guard theft in 2019. The warehouse manager was a former police officer. If this shocks you, hit like now so more people see this story. By sunrise, the scope was undeniable. 47 arrests, 1.2 tons of narcotics seized, 129 weapons, for $0.1 million in cash, 17 vehicles, 8 properties. But the numbers didn't capture the full devastation. News helicopters circled the state house. Reporters crowded the streets. Citizens watched in horror as the people they had trusted were escorted out in handcuffs. Because this wasn't a cartel operating in the shadows. This was a cartel operating inside the government. Inside a federal analysis center in Boston, digital forensics teams began dissecting evidence seized from the raids. Laptops, phones, hard drives, encrypted servers. One laptop belonged to Lamar Cook. It required 14 hours to crack the encryption. When the screen finally unlocked, investigators found a complete operational map, shipping schedules coordinated with state mail delivery routes, payment ledgers showing coded initials and dollar amounts, contacts listed under fake names, and communication threads revealing something even more disturbing. Cook wasn't the top of the network. He reported to someone else. The messages referenced the judge. Instructions came through encrypted apps. The judge approved shipment. The judge requires payment by Friday. The judge demands discretion. Agents cross-reference communication timestamps with court schedules across Massachusetts. They analyzed payment patterns. They tracked phone locations. And they identified the source. Suffolk County Superior Court Judge Catherine Delgado, 62 years old, 23 years on the bench, respected in legal circles, known for tough sentencing on drug offenses, a judge who had publicly condemned cartel violence, a judge who had privately enabled it. Come and exposed if you're still following this. The evidence against Judge Delgado was overwhelming. Bank records showed $870,000 in deposits to accounts she controlled through shell companies registered in Delaware. The deposits came from the same offshore networks tied to Cook's payments. Emails recovered from her personal server contained explicit instructions. Ensure the Richardson case is dismissed. Delay the Martinez trial until next quarter. Approve early release for inmate 47382. Each instruction corresponded to a cartel associate. She had dismissed drug cases against key distributors. She had reduced sentences for cartel enforcers. She had approved probation for traffickers who should have faced decades in prison. And she had been paid handsomely for every decision. Over 6 years, Judge Delgado had received $3.4 million in cartel payments. The task force now faced a critical decision. Arresting a sitting judge required absolute precision. Any mistake would trigger legal challenges that could unravel the entire case. Any leak would allow her to destroy evidence. The operation was codenamed Gavel Down. At 6:03 a.m. on a cold Tuesday morning, FBI agents entered Judge Delgado's chambers in the Suffolk County Courthouse. She was reviewing case files. A cup of coffee sat on her desk beside the Massachusetts Legal Code. The senior agent identified himself. He presented the warrant. Judge Delgado's face did not change. She did not argue. She did not call her attorney. She simply closed the file in front of her and extended her wrists. Because she knew the evidence was absolute. Within 3 hours, the arrest became national news. Massachusetts judge arrested in massive cartel corruption case. 6-year scheme exposed as federal agents dismantle network. From state house to courthouse. How cartels infiltrated Massachusetts government. The betrayal was complete, but the investigation was not finished. Type justice below if you believe these people should face maximum sentences. As forensic accountants traced financial flows, they uncovered something even more disturbing. The network extended far beyond Massachusetts. Shell companies tied to Judge Delgado and Lamar Cook had connections in 7 other states. Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, Vermont, Maine. The same pattern repeated. Government employees with unexplained wealth, judges with suspicious case dismissals, prosecutors who declined to pursue winnable cases. The Sinaloa Cartel had not simply bribed a few officials. They had built a governmental infrastructure. Federal prosecutors identified 73 individuals across New England under active investigation. Municipal employees, state legislators, police captains, court clerks, even a deputy mayor in Providence, Rhode Island. Each had received payments. Each had protected cartel operations. Each believed the system was too complex to unravel. They were wrong. Operation Clean Shield expanded into Operation Clear Corridor. The FBI deployed 340 additional agents across the Northeast. The DEA committed tactical teams to 7 simultaneous operations. The Department of Justice assigned 27 federal prosecutors to coordinate cases. This was no longer a local corruption case. This was a systematic purge. Over the next 6 months, arrests came in waves. Week 1, 19 arrests in Rhode Island. Week 2, 14 arrests in New Hampshire. Week 3, 31 arrests in Connecticut. Each arrest revealed new connections. Each seized device provided more evidence. Each cooperating witness exposed another layer. The cartels had been patient. They had invested millions over a decade. They had recruited carefully. They had built redundancy into every system. But they had made one critical mistake. They had underestimated the federal government's willingness to burn it all down. Share this story so more communities understand what's happening in their governments. Inside the Boston Federal Courthouse, the trials began. Lamar Cook was the first to face a jury. The evidence was overwhelming. Surveillance footage, financial records, encrypted messages, testimony from cooperating witnesses. Cook's defense argued entrapment. They claimed he was a low-level participant pressured by cartel threats. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Guilty on all counts. Conspiracy to distribute cocaine, money laundering, racketeering, bribery of a public official. Sentencing, 28 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole. Judge Catherine Delgado's trial followed 3 months later. Her defense was more sophisticated. They argued she had made judicial errors, not criminal decisions. They claimed the payments were legitimate consulting fees from unrelated businesses. Prosecutors presented 847 pages of financial records. They showed how every payment corresponded to a specific court decision. They demonstrated how she had systematically protected cartel operations while publicly condemning drug crime. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Guilty on 17 counts. Sentencing, 35 years in federal prison. When the sentence was read, Judge Delgado showed no emotion. She simply nodded. And as federal marshals led her from the courtroom, she looked back once at the bench where she had sat for 23 years. The bench she had betrayed. But the human cost could not be measured in prison sentences. During the 6 years Judge Delgado had protected cartel operations, Massachusetts had experienced 2,847 confirmed opioid overdose deaths. How many of those deaths were directly connected to the drugs she allowed to flow freely? How many families were destroyed because she dismissed cases? How many communities were poisoned because she protected traffickers? The numbers could never be calculated precisely. But every family who buried a child knew the answer. Common accountability if you believe this betrayal deserves the harshest possible punishment. Governor Healy addressed Massachusetts from the State House steps. Her voice was steady. Her message was clear. What we have witnessed is not simply corruption. It is the weaponization of public trust. When those sworn to protect us become the very threat we need protection from, the foundation of civil society cracks. Today, we begin the work of repair. She announced the creation of the Massachusetts Integrity Commission, an independent body with subpoena power, authority to audit any state employee's finances, direct reporting to federal oversight, and a mandate to investigate every government position connected to public safety and judicial systems. The commission would review every case Judge Delgado had presided over, every decision Lamar Cook had influenced, every contract touched by the network. It would take years. It would be expensive. It would be painful, but it was necessary because the alternative was accepting that government could be bought. Across New England, similar commissions formed. Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine. Each state confronted the same uncomfortable truth. The cartels had not invaded. They had been invited in by people wearing badges and holding gavels. And now, every institution had to ask the same question. Who else? If you want to see how this story continues, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next investigation. The ripple effects extended beyond arrests and trials. In Springfield, community organizations launched Operation Reclaim, citizen-led patrols, neighborhood watch programs, direct communication channels with federal agents. Residents who had felt abandoned by corrupt officials now took ownership of their streets. In Boston, law students formed the Judicial Accountability Project. They reviewed thousands of court cases. They identified suspicious patterns. They filed motions for resentencing in cases tainted by Delgado's corruption. 47 wrongfully extended sentences were vacated. 23 unjust convictions were overturned. Justice, delayed but delivered. But perhaps the most significant impact was invisible. Every city employee now knew they were being watched. Every judge understood their decisions would be scrutinized. Every police officer realized the badge was not a shield for crime. The culture of invincibility was broken, and in its place, something fragile but essential began to grow. Accountability. Type shield if you believe public servants should be held to the highest standards. The cartel responded with violence. In November, 2 federal agents were ambushed in Hartford. Both survived but sustained serious injuries. The shooters were arrested within 48 hours. In December, a witness scheduled to testify against a corrupt prosecutor disappeared. Her body was found 3 weeks later in a shallow grave outside Worcester. The cartels sent a message. Cooperation has consequences. But the federal government sent a message back. The FBI increased protection for every witness. The Department of Justice fast-tracked prosecutions. And the Attorney General made a public statement that echoed across every cartel safehouse in New England. For every act of retaliation, we will add 10 years to your sentence. For every threat against a witness, we will seize another $1 million in assets. For every attempt to intimidate justice, we will come for you harder, faster, and with the full weight of federal law. You cannot win this fight. The violence stopped because the cartels finally understood. This time, the government was not compromised. This time, the institutions were not for sale. This time, the fight would not end until every network node was dismantled. By April, the statistics told the story. 127 total arrests across 7 states. $43.7 million in assets seized. 2,847 kilograms of narcotics removed from circulation. 412 firearms confiscated. But more importantly, drug overdose deaths in Massachusetts dropped 34% in the following year. Street-level prices for cocaine increased 67% due to supply disruption. Emergency room visits for fentanyl poisoning decreased 28%. The numbers represented lives saved, families preserved, communities given a chance to heal. But the victory was incomplete, because for every network dismantled, cartels adapted. For every official prosecuted, criminals learned to hide better. For every system cleaned, corruption sought new cracks to exploit. The fight was not over. It would never be over. Share this before it gets buried so more people understand what's at stake. As I write this, federal investigations continue in 12 additional states. In Michigan, a state senator is under surveillance for suspicious financial activity. In Illinois, a police chief faces questions about dismissed drug cases. In Arizona, customs officials are being audited for irregularities in border inspections. The Massachusetts case was not an isolated incident. It was a symptom of a larger disease. A disease that grows when citizens stop paying attention. When communities trust institutions blindly. When accountability is treated as optional. So I ask you directly, do you believe this fight matters? If you do, hit like so this story reaches beyond the screen. Comment truth below, so I know you're paying attention. Subscribe so you see what happens next. Because the cartels are counting on you to forget. They are counting on outrage to fade. They are counting on investigations to slow down. They are counting on institutions to become comfortable again. And if you let them, they will rebuild. The networks will reform. The payments will resume. The betrayals will continue. But if you refuse to forget, if you demand accountability, if you insist that public trust means something, then the pressure remains. And pressure breaks corruption. Lamar Cook sits in a federal prison in Pennsylvania. He will be 76 years old when he is eligible for release. Judge Catherine Delgado is incarcerated in West Virginia. She will be 97 years old if she lives to see freedom. Their careers are over. Their legacies are destroyed. Their names are synonymous with betrayal. But thousands of others still walk free, hidden in plain sight, wearing badges, holding positions of trust, waiting for attention to shift. So I end with this. The next scandal is already forming. The next betrayal is already in motion. The next corrupt official is already accepting payments. The only question is whether anyone will be watching. Will you? Comment watching below if you refuse to look away. Share this story with someone who needs to see it. And hit subscribe because the next investigation drops soon. The shield was broken in Massachusetts. Now it's being rebuilt. But shields require constant maintenance, constant vigilance, constant pressure. The fight continues. And it needs you.